The pain we hold inside has a way of coming out. The more we try to bury it, the more it twists its way into our lives, finds the cracks, and seeps out. And before we know it, the storm is unleashed. The best fantasy stories are always about something. They have some thematic element driving them, something that touches the most primal aspects of what makes us human. Star Wars is ultimately about a father and son finding redemption. The Matrix is about challenging and accepting your fate. Lord of the Rings is about the devastation of war. Middle West is about the cycle of abuse. It's the story of a boy tormented by his father's rage, and how that rage breaks and infects the boy, and how he struggles not to become a monster like his father. It's also a story of a man who suffered his father's rage, and how, despite his best efforts, he becomes the very monster he hates. Skottie Young and Jorge Corona weave a tale of trauma into a surreal, mythical world full of fantasy creatures and paper routes, rural cities and ancient forests, talking foxes and fields of dangerous fuel. But ultimately, it comes back to a boy named Abel struggling to deal with the pain and suffering his abusive father Dale caused. It's a tough subject because it's one people don't like to talk about. It's easier to pretend these things never happen, or that when they do, they always follow the same pattern. It's harder to admit things are more complicated, that people do horrible things without thinking they're doing anything wrong. It's harder because the more we think about it, the more we realize we could be those people. We could be those monsters. Or really, we are those monsters. Skottie Young manages to show this in a pretty fantastical way by having Abel and his father literally become storms, like the torrent of emotions running through them. It's a perfect metaphor for what it feels like to live through that kind of trauma. And I think Jorge Corona's art style works so well with this concept because the whimsical, cartoony feel can very easily convey deep emotion, but also plays on Abel's innocence. You see this art and you think, that's cute. And then it goes places you weren't expecting it to go. There's lots of emotions in this story, and Corona nails all of them, from Abel's rage to his father's sorrow to his grandfather's ambivalence. The stylized characters keep up the fantasy element, which starts off subtle, amps up to Dark Tower levels of genre building, and then mellows out at the end to a more soft sci-fi tone. Throughout all of it though, Corona just hits every point like he said to Young, give me something ridiculous to draw, and then he just does it. And Skottie Young does the same thing with the story. He creates this world of blended reality, fantasy, and science fiction. Nothing's ever completely explained. The world just is. And to an extent that does bother me because some things are never explained. For example, in my review of the first issue, I wasn't sure what these pink storage tanks were. Obviously people were using them as fuel, but I wasn't sure how or why, and you never get that answered. We do find out what it's called, ethol, and that is very dangerous, but other than that, it's just there. The same for the talking fox. He's Abel's companion, like a sarcastic Jiminy Cricket, but he seems to be the only companion we see in the story. There is a talking bird later on, but that's it. No one else seems to have this physical embodiment of a conscience following them, and it's never explained. None of that detracts from the story, but it is noticeable. Where the story really works though is in this tale of Abel and his journey to fix what his father broke in him. After Abel gets caught shoplifting, he and his father Dale argue. Abel says that this is why his mother left, and Dale tells his son that he's wrong. It's really Abel who made her leave. Abel curses at him, and Dale strikes him. When Abel snaps back with, does it make you feel like a big man? Dale changes. The rage consumes him, and he becomes a storm. Abel flees, and as he does, Dale reaches out to him and pierces him, literally and metaphorically breaking Abel's heart. I didn't notice it at the time, but on the second read-through this panel caught my eye. The regret in Dale's raging eyes. Instead of following Abel, Dale turns away, and that's the first hint that Dale may not be the monster we initially think he is. Clearly there's anger and rage, and he's projecting that on Abel, but there's something else there, hinted at in the way he talks to Abel, the way he puts the boy down. And that's the cycle of abuse. He's doing the same things that were done to him to his son. Maybe not as badly, but that doesn't make a difference. He's broken something in Abel, and it's spreading, no matter what Abel does to try to stop it. And it's not something that can just be wished or magicked away, as Jeb the Wizard explains when he finds Abel. There's no easy fixes to this kind of pain. It's that reality that causes Abel to look somewhere else for help, namely a magician named Magdalena. Abel and the fox track her to a carnival, and end up meeting her once they start stealing food to eat. In his effort to protect the fox, Abel starts to change into a storm himself, but Magdalena is able to stop it. She promises to help Abel, and she seems to really care about him. She even tries to protect him from his father, who's searching for Abel and destroying things on his search. When Dale comes upon Jeb and asks about his son, he ends up attacking the old man and nearly killing him. We also get these moments with Dale showing how callous he is towards Abel, going so far as to destroy a bike the boy's mother sent as a gift because Abel liked it more than the one that Dale bought. But we also see that there is some genuine concern for his son. When Dale wakes up from the storm, his sole thought is about Abel. When he passes out and later wakes up in the hospital, his sole thought is about finding Abel, even though everyone thinks the boy died in the storm. I really have to give Young credit here because you don't catch a lot of the little things in the first reading, but you do in the second. Dale's anger twists his love for Abel. He cares, but his compassion is bent, set upon by his own history with his father, and that creates this tension. He's slipped into being cruel instead of doing it on purpose, so that by the time he is intentionally abusive, he doesn't even realize how he's acting. A lot of people might see that as an excuse, but it's really just how people think. We want abusers to be these evil, sadistic monsters, and some definitely don't have a lick of empathy for anyone. But most of the time, it's more complicated than that. And we get to see that with Abel when Magdalena goes into his mind to try to figure out what happened. Buried in Abel's thoughts are all these moments where his father clearly loved him. But that changes when his grandfather shows up at his grandmother's funeral. This moment overwhelms Abel, his father's personality kicking in and scaring him, and Abel loses control, turns into a storm, and hurts several people in the carnival. When Abel finally regains control, he's horrified by what he's done and he runs away. But instead of helping him, Magdalena lets him leave. This is after gaining Abel's trust and making him one of her people, so to speak. And the fox just nails how completely jacked up it is to abandon him like this. He says, "You asked him to trust you and he did. You broke him, and now you're just gonna throw him away?" That line really sat with me because this is what a lot of people are actually like. They want to help victims until the point where they actually have to do the work. They want the person to talk about their feelings, but they don't want to actually deal with what happens when you bring this stuff up. And when the person lashes out or shuts down or clams up, all the people who had this person's back are suddenly nowhere to be found. This person's problems aren't your problems because you have your own people, your friends, your family, your kids to worry about. You're there for them as long as you don't actually have to be there for them. And there's a consequence to that. It perpetuates the abuse. It continues the cycle. Not just because you're turning a blind eye to a person slowly losing control who may eventually hurt themselves or someone else, but because your inaction is abuse. You have the power to help this person, or to at least try, and to refuse to do it because you don't want to get any dirt on you is no different than abusing the person directly. In fact, it's worse, because you teach people that no one cares, and that it's their responsibility to deal with it. You know, there's another word for responsibility. Fault. It's their fault. Oh, you may not think that's what you're doing, but that's exactly how it's taken, and that never ends well. We see this with Dale when he goes to a bar looking to find anyone who's seen Abel. An old man catches on to Dale's problem, and when the old man starts prodding Dale about how bad of a father he would have to be for his son to run away, especially with the way Dale grips his beer bottle, Dale loses it and starts a fight. He gets his ass kicked, but his anger takes over and he wrecks the place. Everything the old man said was true, and was exactly what Dale needed to hear, but not at that time. How many times has someone told Dale that he needs to learn that actions have consequences? How many times did he hear that from his father, his teachers, his friends' parents? How many people who could have protected him threw it in his face that he had to fend for himself? And then how many of them threw it back in his face when he protected himself the wrong way? When you leave someone to fend for themselves, they often make the wrong decisions. That's definitely what happens with Abel. He tries to find his mother, going through the Endel or endless forest, snapping at the fox the whole time, and gets attacked by weird forest creatures. The pair are rescued by the Nowak, these ancient people of the plains. They recognize the symbol on Abel's chest as the heart of a storm, and they take him to the village so he can meet Nokuyuna, a giant bear with antlers because, why not? Abel wants Nokuyuna to heal him, but the bear says, you can't heal what's in your nature, and Nokuyuna chastises the fox for failing to properly guide Abel. He sends their pair on the quest to find the Winter Woods, and I love this sequence because Scotty Young could have drawn this thing out for years with all the journeys they go on. If this was manga, they totally would do that. Instead, he just goes full on folktale and just sashays past months of story so Abel can meet his grandfather. You know what type of man he is by the way he appears. In a massive blizzard, covered in snow. A cold, lonely, barren man. And the follow-up scene is of the funeral, where he meets Abel for the first time and tries to give the boy a locket from his grandmother, but Dale isn't having it. But in his rage against his father, he hurts Abel and doesn't even notice it. Abel's grandfather tells him that Dale used to love music, which Abel doesn't remember. After hearing his grandfather play a song his wife used to play to Dale as a child, Abel does remember it, and he breaks down. He remembers that there was a point his father once loved him, but now there's only hate and anger. And when Abel shows his grandfather what Dale has done to him, his grandfather reveals he's the same way, and he wants Abel to embrace it. The rage, the hate, the coldness. But Abel refuses, and his grandfather says that Abel is just like his father. A disappointment. When Abel returns to the fox, he's completely broken. This was his one hope of curing himself, and instead he's seen that this is just what people in his family become. He doesn't see any hope, and nothing the fox says can change his mind. Abel tells the fox to leave, and he does, only to regret it and turn back. But when he does, he finds that Abel has gotten snatched by slavers. One of the other kids captured by the slavers taunts Abel about his father, and Abel snaps, and now the cycle is complete. Even though Abel hasn't gone as far as his father, or anywhere near his grandfather, the rage is taking over. He is lashing out. Never really unwarranted, but definitely uncontrolled. And that's something a lot of people who are abused fear, that they will become like the people who hurt them. This is especially true for men and boys, because society has this attitude that if they were victimized, they will victimize other people, especially if they were sexually abused. It doesn't matter that that's completely untrue. The vast majority of victims never hurt anyone, but the myth and stigma are out there, and it affects how those men and boys relate to other people, whether they will allow themselves to have friends, be around family, be around children, or even have children. It affects their relationships, how close they will let others get, whether they will even seek help. I love that Scotty Young put that element in the story because that's an aspect of the cycle of abuse people don't talk about, but it's one that affects so many different people. That despair that there's nothing you can do, that you're not worth helping or saving, is damn near impossible to overcome because everything about our societies, culture, everything about us as a species says that's 100% true. We don't want to help you to help you. We only want to help you to help ourselves. And if there's no easy fix to that, if we can't just put you in therapy for 8 weeks, or if you're not going to put on a happy face for us, well, you're on your own. And the terrible part about that is that most people can't fix this on their own. There isn't a one and done solution. It took years to break that person, and it takes years to repair the damage. It may never be fixed. Sometimes the damage isn't just down to the foundations. Someone's gone in, torn them out, and trashed the bedrock. Nothing you build there will ever be stable. But you won't know until you try. And if you don't, you'll lose that person. And that's where the story goes, although there's such a shift in the tone that it kills the momentum of the story. It shifts from Abel trying to deal with his trauma to Abel and the other kids trying to free themselves from the slavers. It also loses the fantasy element, going more into a sci-fi scene, and almost doesn't feel like the same story. You might be tempted to blame this on the pandemic, but this happened months before that, so this was the direction Young wanted to go in. It's not bad, but it kind of kills the emotional weight of the moment with the grandfather. It does shift back to Abel's story right before the end. When Abel is captured, the fox returns to Jeb and Magdalena to get help, and Magdalena learns a lesson about what happens when you abandon one of your people. Everyone will see you do it, and they may just do that to you. But eventually they change their mind and decide to go rescue Abel and this girl named Bobby who worked at the carnival and went to rescue Abel on their own but got caught. The story ends with this battle between the carnies and the slavers. Abel eventually loses it when the lead slaver Nicholas tries to kill Magdalena. Abel kills him, saving Magdalena, but he completely loses control. The other slavers attack Abel, tearing him apart, essentially killing him, when Dale shows up and protects his son. Once the slavers are dealt with, Dale tries to reach Abel, but the boy isn't having it. He tries to kill his father. Dale rips away his own storm, and once free apologizes over and over and over. Abel finally calms down enough to talk, and screams at Dale that he's turned him into a monster, just like him. Dale doesn't deny it. He owns it. And he wants Abel to finish it. To finish him. But Abel doesn't. It's a powerful scene that hits on a lot of the things that people want to say to those who hurt them. And I think Scotty Young and Jorge Corona did it perfectly for the story. It may not feel right to you, but it is right for this story. It's a conversation that shows that it's so easy to hate the people who hurt you. And even when you want to forgive them, it's still not easy to let go what they've done to you. Like Abel says, you can forgive them, but you can't forget. Not yet. I do wish we would have gotten a little more about Abel's mother and about the concept of the heart of the storm, since it's something people recognize without ever getting into what it is. But that's not necessary for the story to work. It ends where it needs to end. I really enjoyed Middle West, from the art to the story, and I recommend it to anyone wanting to read a great comic. It's a very well done metaphor about the cycle of abuse and what it does to a person. And those are the kinds of stories people really need to read, because they help us tackle these difficult topics and even get us to look at people in a different way. And what I really like about Young's approach is that he's never specific about the kind of abuse Dale or Abel's grandfather actually did. So if you want to think it was something much worse, you can. And then you really gotta work once that impulse to just instantly hate Dale kicks in, and then you learn that he didn't want to become what he became. Can you muster the pity? Can you muster the sympathy? Can you show him empathy? Can you see him as a man and not a monster? Powerful stuff. So if you haven't checked out Middle West, I really think you should. You're going to be in for a little bit of a challenge, but I think you'll like the result.